Hello, everyone. Phil Lee returning with a new edition of Civil War Chat. Today is Thursday, the 24th of February, 2022. Click on the subscribe button if you'd like to subscribe down here in the lower right, and also the notification bell in the far upper right to be notified when future episodes are released. And today I'm introducing you to my new book, The Dreadful Frauds, Critical Race Theory and Identity Politics. You get it at Amazon for $16 in paperback, and it's also available in Kindle. I think one of the key things to understand about this is that it explains how critical race theory and identity politics is set on deconstructing the history of the United States in such a way as that there's going to be a change in the narrative from what it has been to one in which the history is determined by a never-ending war between oppressors and oppressed. And among the people that were historically oppressive were the leaders of the Confederacy, according to critical race theory and identity politics. And that's that's an important reason why those statues were taken down. And these ideas are incompatible. We cannot have this any kind of a favorable viewpoint of Confederate monuments or Confederate heritage as long as critical race theory and identity politics continue to gain popularity. So this book is important from the perspective that it's going to give you an analysis of critical race theory and identity politics from the viewpoint of the Southerner. So now let me bring up, what I'm going to do is I'm going to read the preface from the book, and let me do that now. In 2015, Dylan Roof was a 21-year-old white South Carolina loner. Even though not a member of any racist group, he had indoctrinated himself online into becoming a white supremacist. One day, he resolved to start a race war by killing multiple blacks. He entered a black church in Charleston where he murdered 9 members and injured 1 with a semi-automatic pistol. After the police captured him, they discovered he owned a jacket decorated with miniature apartheid-era flags for Rhodesia and South Africa. He also had photos of himself holding a souvenir replica of a Confederate battle flag and a burning American flag. Although the Confederate flag was also popular among many law-abiding South Carolinians as a symbol of their family and state heritage, then Governor Nikki Haley led a successful drive to get the flag removed from the state capitol grounds. Thereafter, 100-year-old Confederate statues increasingly started coming down. Most were cenotaphs to the common soldier who had fallen on faraway fields. Statue critics generally did not realize that comparatively few Confederates owned slaves. According to historian William C. Davis, probably 90% of the men who wore gray had never owned a slave and had no personal interest at all, either in slavery or the shadow issue of states' rights. The widespread Northern myth that the Confederates went to the battlefield to perpetuate slavery is just that, a myth. Their letters and diaries in the tens of thousands reveal again and again that they fought and died because their Southern homeland was invaded, and their natural instinct was to protect home and hearth. But the politicians and mobs didn't care. Local politicians wanted population growth. If Confederate icons suggested racism to newcomers, they would have to be removed. The mobs and social elites were more like bullies determined to impose cultural genocide on the South. After the statue destruction mobs gained practical immunity from the laws protecting the memorials in the summer of 2020, due to temper tantrums in the wake of mostly dubious claims about racial police brutality, I responded with My Causes of the Civil War book. That was my previous book. Its purpose was to rehabilitate Confederate iconography by showing that Northerners did not go to war to end slavery, and that their common refrain of wanting to preserve the Union had a different meaning in the South. Where the North saw preservation by forcing seceded states back into the Union, the South saw coercion. The irreconcilable difference in perspective is why the war happened, because the North could have let the South leave peacefully if Northerners truly wanted to be rid of slavery. Since disdain for the Confederate memory continued to grow, I concluded that a force beyond historical distortions about the Civil War was at work. For many years, public polls showed that most Americans believed that statues symbolize Southern heritage, not racism. In 2017, the American Battlefield Trust surveyed subscribers to their Hallowed Ground magazine and learned that 97% wanted Confederate statues to remain on national battlefield parks. Almost 85% did not want Confederate monuments removed from other locations. Over 90% endorsed the statement that Robert E. Lee is, quote, worthy of respect today, close quote, whereas only 9% endorsed the statement that Lee is unworthy of respect today. Significantly, 2/3 of the respondents descended from Union soldiers, and only 22% were from the former Confederate states. Nevertheless, the trust virtually ignored the survey results. Pragmatically speaking, they censored them and have ever since encouraged the removal of Confederate icons by their acquiescence to mob action. By early 2021, it was evident that the trust had been swept up in identity politics, along with the rest of America's elite. By uniting with critical gender theorists, in other words, radical feminists, critical race theory proponents have been trying to fundamentally transform our country. Both teach that America is divided into two factions, oppressors and victims. In terms of race, the oppressors are white. In terms of gender, the oppressors are male. Both are wrong. Barack Obama's 2 presidential terms and a long line of Black immigrants trying to get into our country show that American systemic racism is minimal, if not a complete myth. Similarly, while females have abundant affirmative action programs compared to almost none for men, the fact that 60% of college students are female shows that women are not a disadvantaged minority, but actually a favored majority. Since Black compose 13% of America's population and women over 50%, a coalition of feminists and critical race theory followers could gain control of America. The Republican women, of course, would not be included among those. But anyway, both seek remedies for the alleged oppression through quotas. They eschew equality of opportunity for the individual and instead seek equality of outcome for each gender, racial, or ethnic group. Sheryl Sandberg, Facebook's #2 executive, believes, quote, job openings should be contested by equal numbers of women and men, close quote. Ibram Kendi, a leading spokesman for CRT Correctives, argues, quote, the only remedy to past discrimination is present discrimination. The only remedy to present discrimination is future discrimination, close quote. In combination, CRT and feminism have morphed into a concept of identity-based victimhood determined by one's immutable characteristics such as skin color and sex. The philosophy puts white males at the top of the oppressor class. Any denial by them that they are neither racist nor misogynistic is taken as proof that they are unaware of their prejudices. Therefore, the so-called oppressors are increasingly subjected to institutionally mandated, quote, conversations about race and sex to discover their inner biases. In truth, these conversations are merely one-way indoctrinations. Participants are taught that meritocracies are wrong, that they must step aside to make room for ethnic minorities and racial minorities and women. Such teachings are not limited to adults. Due to the dominance of feminism in the teachers' unions, identity-based privilege and victimhood is taught in many K-12 schools. Young white boys are taught that their natural competitiveness is a poisonous trait of traditional masculinity. Conversely, young Blacks are taught that they are needy victims entitled to riot and loot under the shield of mantras such as no justice, no peace. In 2021, Yale University revealed that 35% of its students first learned about critical race theory in high school. That's from a survey done at Yale. Ultimately, CRT teaches whites that they are inherently racist. Conversely, it teaches Blacks that they are victims, so long as Blacks collectively don't have parity with whites by numerous group metrics such as wealth, income, educational attainment, and others. Blacks are further taught that they are entitled to deliberate racial preferences, despite 55 years of affirmative actions and $22 trillion and more than 80 means-tested welfare programs since the start of the war on poverty in 1964. Until then, they cannot be held responsible for the collective underperformance based upon behavior, an allegation that CRT teaches is deeply racist. Critical race theory and identity politics are the enemies of America's traditional virtues. My book, The Dreadful Frauds, is designed to help you understand that. And so that's my message for today. Please go to Amazon and buy The Dreadful Frauds. It's really going to help you understand how we can never have a successful representation of Confederate or Southern heritage as long as this continues. That's important. That's probably one of the most important things you're going to get out of this book, and how that came to be. Okay, I want to thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.